started off as a tiny little shit larva, Randy. And then they grew into shitapillars, a pandemic of shitapillars. Everywhere you look, Randy, shitapillars. They almost throw me over the goddamn edge, boy.
Small things, true care, truth brings. I'll take one lift, you're right, best trip out west. I know you'll be at my show, watching, waiting, commiserating. Say it ain't so, I will not go. Turn the lights on, carry me home. Come home, work sucks, I know. She left me roses by the stairs. Surprises let me know she cares. Say it ain't so, I will not go. Turn the lights on, carry me home. Na 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 na. Keep your head still, I'll be your thrill, and I will go. be beat. Now the neighborhood's cracked and torn. The kids are grown up, but their lives are warm. How can one little street swallow so many lives? Chances thrown, nothing's free. Longing for used to be. Still it's hard to see. Fragile lives, shattered dreams.
Jamie had a chance, well she really did. Instead she dropped out and had a couple of kids. Mark still lives at home cause he's got no job. He just plays guitar, smokes a lot of pot. Chances thrown to this free. Longing for used to be. Still it's hard to see. Fragile lives.
Strangers brought to this street. Now it's all used to be. Still it's hard to see. Tragic lives, shattered dreams. Changes brought changes to this street. Now it's all used to be. Still it's hard to see. Tragic lives, shattered dreams.
What happened? He used to be so kind.
Dead? No. Worse than dead. He was murdered. Slowly. Piece by piece. They didn't use knives or bullets. They used words. They used silence. They used betrayal wrapped in smiles and poison disguised as love. They killed him so slowly, he didn't even realize he was dying until there was nothing left to say.
I never dreamed that I'd
again, so it sinks into the bones of everyone who thought I was finished.
I never
disappeared
dreamed
for a
that I'd
reason.
love
Not
somebody
because I was
like
weak,
you.
not because they won, not because I
No,
couldn't
I
handle what they threw at me. I disappeared because I understood something they never will. Sometimes the battlefield isn't out there. Sometimes the war is inside, and I had to go to war with myself. betrayal
loneliest
taught me
day
who
of
to
my
trust. No one,
life.
every lie taught me what to believe.
Such a
Only
lonely
myself.
day.
Every time they kicked me while I was down, I learned exactly where
It's a
to
day
aim
that
when it
I
was my
can't
turn to strike. They educated me. They
The most
trained me.
loneliest day
They
of my
created the very thing they should have feared most.
The most
And they did
loneliest
it
day of my
while thinking they were winning. The arrogance, the
Such a
absolute
lonely
blindness. They couldn't see what was happening right in front of them. They couldn't
It's a
see
day
that
that
every
I'll
blow
never
they
miss.
landed was making me stronger. They couldn't see that every time they pushed me closer to the edge, I was learning how to fly. Now I don't just fly, I soar. And they're still down there in the dirt looking up, wondering how I got so high, wondering where I went, wondering why the sky suddenly got so dark. It's me, I'm the darkness now, and I'm descending. Do you know what the hardest part was? It wasn't the pain. Pain is temporary. Pain fades. The hardest part was the silence. When I disappeared, I had to face myself. No distractions, no noise, no one to blame but the man in the mirror. And that man, he was broken. He was bleeding from wounds no one else could see. He was carrying weight that should have crushed him 1,000 times over. He was alone in a way that most people will never understand. But I sat with him. I sat with that broken man. I looked him in the eyes and I told him the truth. I told him that death was coming to save him. I told him that the world didn't care if he lived or died. I told him that every dream he ever had was going to require him to become someone he didn't recognize. And then I asked him a question.
It's a
The
day
only question
that I'm glad
matters.
I
Are you willing to die so that something greater can be born? He said yes, and so I killed him. I killed the old me with my own hands. I buried him in the deepest part of my soul, where no one will ever find him. I mourned him for a moment, just a moment, and then I moved on. Because grief is a luxury I can't afford. Because the past is a prison I refuse to live in. Because the man I was wouldn't survive Interest has accumulated because debts have come due, because the universe keeps a ledger and their balance is about to hit zero. They wanted me gone, they should have made sure I stayed gone. They wanted me silent, they should have cut out my tongue. They wanted me weak, they should have broken my legs, but they didn't. They half-measured, they assumed, they underestimated, and now they'll pay for every moment of arrogance with everything they have. I disappeared for a reason. That reason is standing right in front of them now, breathing, watching, waiting. They'll understand why soon enough, when everything they built starts crumbling, when the foundations they thought were solid turn to sand, when they look around for allies and find only shadows, when they reach for power and grasp only air. They'll understand then. They'll understand that silence isn't weakness, it's preparation. They'll understand that absence isn't defeat, it's strategy. They'll understand that the man who disappears into darkness doesn't do it to hide. He does it to hunt. And now the hunt is over. The prey has been cornered, and the predator is ready to feed. I disappeared for a reason. Now they understand why. Now it's too late. Now there's only me and the sound of everything they know coming to an end.
I had to find you, tell you I need you, tell you I set you apart. Tell me your secrets and ask me your questions. Oh, let's go back to the start. Running in circles, coming up tails, heads on a science apart. Nobody said it was easy. It's such a shame for us to part. Nobody said it was easy. No one ever said it would be this hard. Oh, take me back to the start. I was just guessing numbers and figures, pulling the puzzles apart. Questions of science,
You wake without energy,
progress,
but your body stands anyway. This is not willpower. This is something older. The way water continues through stone long after the storm is past. Your life is shaping you. It has been for months, years perhaps. You did not consent to this, but the hand that molds you does not require permission. There is a moment each morning, brief, almost invisible, when you pause before moving, not deciding, just pausing. In that pause, without judgment. I am ancient. I am observant. I know what lives beneath human motion. There is a difference between functioning and living. Your body knows this difference even when your mind refuses it. You complete tasks in silence because no one else will complete them. This silence is not noble. It is survivalist. It is the sound of a soul rationing its resources. The alchemy of exhaustion is this. It transforms the extraordinary into the bearable. It makes endurance possible by making meaning impossible. You do not ask why anymore. You only ask how long. This is adaptation. But what you adapt to becomes what you are. Your routines are rituals now, not chosen, inherited from previous versions of yourself who were too tired to imagine alternatives. Each morning the same sequence, the same mechanical movements, coffee, shower, keys, door. These acts are spells. They hold the day together, but they also bind you to a shape you never agreed to inhabit. There is a threshold you cross each time you leave your home. You feel it, the shift from private exhaustion to public competence. This threshold is real. It exists between worlds. On one side, the truth of how you feel. On the other, the performance of being fine. You have become skilled at crossing. So skilled, you forget which side is real. I have watched souls do this for millennia. This crossing, this splitting. It is not sustainable. But humans can sustain the unsustainable for longer than they imagine possible. This is both your gift and your curse. Hope lives in strange places. Not in optimism, not in belief that things will improve. Hope lives in the fact that you are still reading this, still listening, still looking for something you cannot name. That unnamed thing is the part of you that has not yet adapted. The part that still remembers you when not always this tired. Your life is changing you while you sleep, while you work, while you stare at screens, trying to find something that feels like rest. The changes are invisible but cumulative, like water shaping stone, like stars forming from dust across distances too vast to comprehend in a single human lifetime. Except your lifetime is singular, and the dust is already forming into something. You do not realize how much you have changed until you encounter an old photograph, an old journal entry, an old version of your voice on a recording. The distance between who you were and who you are now, this distance was not travelled intentionally. You arrived here through a series of small concessions, each one reasonable, each one necessary at the time. This is the truth you avoid. You have been negotiating with your own diminishment. Not consciously, but negotiation does not require consciousness. It only requires conditions and time. The conditions were set long before you noticed them. The time has already passed. can change, something must be seen. You have been moving in the dark, calling it efficiency, calling it responsibility, calling it necessary. But there is a difference between moving through darkness and being shaped by it. One is temporary, the other is transformational. You are being transformed. The question is only, into what? There are forces at work in human lives that humans rarely acknowledge. Not mystical forces, though they feel mystical. Structural forces, repetition, default, momentum. You think you are making choices, but most days you are being carried by the momentum of yesterday's choices. This is not failure, this is physics. Objects in motion remain in motion unless acted upon by an external force. You are waiting for the external force. A crisis. A breaking point. The moment when change becomes unavoidable. The crisis is not transformation. Crisis is collapse, pretending to be opportunity. Real transformation happens in the chrysalis, in the dark, in the gestation of something not yet ready to be named. You are already in the chrysalis. You have been for some time. The fatigue you feel is not laziness. It is the exhaustion of a form that can no longer hold what you are becoming. But becoming requires participation. The chrysalis can hold you, but it cannot force you to change. Here is what I have observed across centuries. Humans change in one of two ways. They change because they must, or they change because they choose. The first is survival. The second is sovereignty. Survival changes you into what the circumstances require. You become smaller, harder, more efficient, less vulnerable. Sovereignty changes you into what you were meant to become before the circumstances began making decisions for you. Both are transformation, but they lead to different worlds. You are tired of surviving. I see this. Not tired enough to stop. You will continue surviving for as long as necessary, but tired enough to recognize that survival is not the same as living. This recognition is a form of hope, quiet, restrained, but present. The part of you that notices your exhaustion is not exhausted. The part of you that observes your patterns is not bound by those patterns. There is something in you that remains untouched by the accumulation of days. Something observing, waiting. I recognize this something. It is older than your fatigue, older than your routines, older than the version of yourself you present to the world. It does not speak often, but when it does, it speaks in pauses. The pause before you stand, the pause before you answer, the pause before you agree to one more thing you do not want to do. In those pauses, a question is forming, not loud enough to hear yet, but forming. The question is not, how do I survive this? The question is, what am I becoming? This is the question your life has been trying to ask you for months, maybe years. But asking requires stillness, and stillness feels dangerous when momentum is the only thing keeping you upright. So you have avoided stillness, filled every gap with noise, with motion, with the mechanical completion of tasks. I do not blame you for this. Stillness reveals what motion conceals. And what it conceals is this. You are not living the life you are capable of living. Not because you lack ability, not because you lack worth, but because you are living a life designed by default, not intention. Default is a powerful architect. It builds entire existences out of unexamined assumptions. You assumed you had to say yes. You assumed rest was optional. You assumed your needs could wait. You assumed you would have time later. These assumptions became the blueprint. And now you are living inside a structure you did not design. The structure is not evil. It is simply indifferent to whether you thrive within it. It will hold you for as long as you remain inside it. It will not release you, but it will also not sustain you. You are being held, not nourished. There is a kind of suffering that is not dramatic. It does not collapse into crisis. It does not demand rescue. It simply continues, day after day. A low-grade ache that you learn to ignore, because ignoring it is easier than addressing it. You have learned to ignore it very well, but the body does not forget what the mind ignores. Exhaustion lives in your shoulders, in your jaw, in the way you wake, already tired. This is not weakness. This is information. Your body is telling you something your mind is too busy to hear. What it is telling you is this. The life you are living costs more than you are being replenished. You are spending from reserves that are not infinite. At some point the reserves run out, and then change is no longer a choice, it is a consequence. I have watched this pattern across centuries, across cultures, across countless individual lives. The ones who wait for the reserves to run out are not weak. They are loyal. Loyal to promises made long ago. Loyal to people who depend on them. Loyal to a version of themselves they believe they should be. But loyalty to an unsustainable pattern is not virtue. It is slow erasure. You do not want to disappear, but you are disappearing in increments too small to measure daily. A little less laughter, a little less curiosity, a little less capacity for joy. These losses are invisible, but they accumulate. And one day you will look for the person you were and find only the function you have become. This is not inevitable, but it is the default trajectory. Default does not require your participation. It only requires your non-resistance. And you are so tired that non-resistance feels like the only option. Here is the truth beneath the exhaustion. You are afraid. Not of failing, not of judgment, not of loss. You are afraid that if you stop, if you rest, if you refuse one more obligation, the entire structure will collapse. It requires imagining a third option, one that you have not yet named, because you have been too busy surviving to imagine. Imagination requires energy, and you have been spending your energy on continuation. But here is what I observe. You are still imagining, even now, even exhausted. The fact that you are listening to this, the fact that something in you is searching, this is imagination. Quiet, nascent, but alive. Imagination is the part of you that has not been colonized by default. It whispers in the pauses. It asks questions you do not yet have answers for. What would it feel like to wake with energy? What would it feel like to move through the day without the constant calculation of depletion? These questions are not fantasies. They are breadcrumbs, leading you back to a version of life that has not yet been disciplined into silence. Your life is changing you. This is already happening, has been happening. The question is not whether you will be changed. The question is whether you will participate in the shaping. Participation does not require grand gestures. It requires small recognitions, small redirections. It requires noticing the pause before you agree to something you do not want to do. It requires asking in that pause, is this mine to carry? Most of the time, the answer will still be yes. But sometimes, more often than you expect, the answer is no. The no does not need to be loud. It does not need to be justified. It only needs to be honest. Honesty is a threshold. Once you cross it, the landscape changes. Not dramatically, not immediately, but irreversibly. I have watched humans stand at this threshold for years, decades even. They know the crossing is necessary, but they wait for permission, for readiness, for a better time. There is no better time. There is only the recognition that waiting is also a choice. And waiting has a cost. The same cost as moving. But one cost accumulates into transformation. The other accumulates into resignation. You are not resigned, not yet. The part of you that is still searching. This is the part that knows resignation is not inevitable. But it is close, closer than you realize. Resignation does not announce itself. It arrives quietly through a series of small abandonments. You abandon the dream before it becomes embarrassing. You abandon the desire before it becomes painful. You abandon the protection from disappointment, from vulnerability, from the risk of wanting something and not receiving it. The protection works, but what it protects eventually becomes a smaller and smaller version of who you are. You are not always this small. There was a time when you moved through the world with a different kind of energy, not naive, not ignorant, but open. That openness has been educated out of you by experience, by loss, by the accumulation of days that did not go as planned. This education is real. The lessons are valid. The world does require protection. But protection and imprisonment are separated by a single degree, and you have crossed that degree without noticing. You are safe, but you are also trapped. The trap is not external. No one is forcing you to continue. The trap is the story you tell yourself about who you have to be, what you have to do, what is required of you. This story was true once. Maybe it is still partially true, but it is not the only true story available. There are other stories, other ways of arranging the same facts. In one story, you are the person who holds everything together. The one who cannot rest because rest would mean collapse. In another story, you are the person learning to hold things differently, not abandoning, not collapsing, but redistributing the weight. The second story does not erase the first. It complicates it. Make space for nuance. And nuance is where transformation lives. Not in the binary, but in the space between. You have been living in the binary for too long. Survive or collapse. Function or fail. Continue or quit. These are not the only options, but they are the only options exhaustion can see. Exhaustion is not a good navigator. It knows how to keep you alive, but it does not know how to lead you toward thriving. Thriving requires a different kind of intelligence, one that you have been suppressing because it feels indulgent, selfish, unrealistic. But what you call selfish, I call sustainable. What you call indulgent, I call necessary. What you call unrealistic, I call the only path that does not lead to dissolution. You are dissolving, slowly, imperceptibly, but the erosion is real. I do not say this to frighten you. I say it because recognition precedes change, and you are ready to recognize what you have been avoiding. The avoidance is not cowardice, it is self-protection. You avoid it because looking directly at your exhaustion would require acknowledging how long you have been living this way. And acknowledging would require grieving the time lost, the energy spent, the version of yourself you might have become if the circumstances had been different. Grief is heavy. You are already carrying too much. But grief, when allowed, does not add weight. It releases it. What you have been carrying is not grief. It is the avoidance of grief. The effort required to keep it at bay. This effort is exhausting, more exhausting than the grief itself. I have watched humans avoid grief for entire lifetimes. They believe they are protecting themselves, but what they are protecting is not themselves. It is the story they tell about themselves. The story that says, I am fine, I can handle this, I do not need help, I do not need rest, I do not need anything I am not already receiving. This story is a kind of armor. It has kept you functional, but it has also kept you isolated. Isolated from your own needs, from your own limits, from your own humanity. You are human. This means you have limits. This is not failure. This is design. But you have been living as though limits are obstacles to overcome rather than information to honor. Every time you push through exhaustion, you send a message to yourself. Your needs do not matter as much as the outcome. This message is received and internalized and repeated until it becomes identity. You are not your output, but you have been living as though you are. Your worth is not measured by what you produce, but you have been living as though it is. These are not truths, they are stories. Stories you inherited, stories you were taught, stories you never questioned, because questioning them would require imagining an alternative. The alternative is available. It has always been available. But it requires stepping outside the framework that has been governing your choices. And stepping outside feels dangerous, because outside the framework you are not sure who you are. This uncertainty is the threshold, the chrysalis, the gestation. You are afraid that if you let go of the story, you will dissolve into nothing. But dissolution is not the same as disappearance. Dissolution is the necessary precursor to reformation. You cannot become what you are meant to become while still clinging to the shape that no longer fits. The shape must soften, must break, must release. This is not destruction. This is transformation. I have watched this transformation across millennia. It is always the same, and it is always different. The shape is unique to each soul, but the process is ancient, older than language, older than civilization. You are not the first to stand at this threshold. You will not be the last. But you are the only one who can cross it for yourself. No one can do this for you. No one can give you permission. No one can make it easier. The crossing requires only one thing: the willingness to see what you have been avoiding. You have been avoiding the truth of your exhaustion, the cost of your continuation, the price of your loyalty to an unsustainable pattern. You have been avoiding the recognition that you are not fine, that you have not been fine for some time. This recognition does not make you weak. It makes solution. It comes with a question. The question is not, what should I do? The question is, what do I want? You have not asked yourself this question in years, maybe decades, because wanting feels dangerous. Wanting opens you to disappointment. Wanting requires vulnerability. So you stopped wanting. Told yourself you were being realistic, mature, responsible. But the wanting did not stop. It only went underground. It lives in the restlessness you feel at night, in the dissatisfaction that has no clear cause, in the quiet ache that pulses beneath your functioning. This ache is not a problem, it is a signal, pointing you towards something you have been trained to ignore. What you have been trained to ignore is your own interior, the landscape of your own needs, your own desires, your own limits. You have been taught that this landscape is selfish, indulgent, a luxury you cannot afford. But this landscape is you, and ignoring it does not make it disappear. It only makes you a stranger to yourself. You have become a stranger to yourself. This is why nothing feels right, even when everything is technically fine. Because fine is not the same as alive. And you are built for aliveness, not maintenance. Aliveness requires energy, and you have no energy left. This is the paradox. The thing you need most is the thing you believe you cannot afford. But you cannot afford to continue without it. The reserves are almost empty. You feel this. Even if you cannot name it, you feel it. The sense that you are running on something unsustainable. That one more demand, one more crisis, one more disappointment might be the thing that finally depletes you completely. This is not pessimism. This is realism. And realism, when faced directly, becomes the catalyst for change. Not dramatic change, not sudden transformation, but the quiet beginning of a different trajectory. A trajectory that includes you, not just your function, not just your output, but you. You do not know what this trajectory looks like yet. That is fine. You do not need to know. You only need to acknowledge that the current trajectory is unsustainable. And that acknowledgement is enough for now. Because acknowledgement shifts something. It breaks the spell of automaticity. You are no longer moving unconsciously. You are moving with awareness of the cost. And awareness changes the equation. Not immediately, but inevitably. I do not know what you will do with this awareness. I am not here to instruct. I am here only to reflect what I observe. And what I observe is this. You are tired, but you are not defeated. You are depleted, but you are not empty. You are trapped in a pattern, but you are also the one who can begin to loosen it. Not through force, not through willpower, but through recognition. Recognition of the pause before standing, before agreeing, before continuing. That pause is sacred. It is the space where change becomes possible. It is small, almost invisible, but it is there, and it is yours. In that pause, something is waiting. Not waiting for you to have answers, not waiting for you to be ready. Just waiting, patient, ancient, observing. It is the part of you that has not been shaped by exhaustion, the part that remembers what it feels like to move through the world without constant calculation. This part has not disappeared. It has only been covered by years, by obligation, by the accumulation of small concessions. But it is still there, beneath everything, and it is stronger than you remember. Strong enough to endure what you have endured. Strong enough to outlast the pattern that has been shaping you. Strong enough to begin imagining a different shape. The different shape will not be easy. It will not be quick. It will require things from you that feel impossible right now. But impossible is not the same as unavailable. Impossible only means not yet visible from where you are standing. You are standing at a threshold. You have been for some time. The threshold between the life that is shaping you and the life you could shape. Between survival and sovereignty. Between default and intention. I cannot tell you which side to choose. I can only tell you that both sides are real. And that standing at the threshold indefinitely is also a choice. One with its own consequences. The threshold will hold you for as long as you allow it. But it will not carry you forward. Forward requires a single step, not a leap, a step. The step is small, so small it feels almost meaningless. But it is not meaningless. It is the beginning of a different trajectory. The step is this, noticing. Noticing the exhaustion, noticing the pause, noticing the cost, noticing without fixing, without solving, just noticing. Because noticing is the first act of participation, the first refusal of default. It says, I am here, I am aware, I am not just a function moving through space. This is not a small thing. This is the thing beneath all other things. Your life is changing you, has been changing you, will continue changing you. The question is not whether change happens. The question is whether you participate. Participation begins with recognition. Recognition begins with a pause. You are already pausing. You would not be here otherwise. Something in you is asking to be seen, to be acknowledged, to be included in the calculus of your days. This something is not weak. It is the opposite of weak. It is the part of you that refuses to dissolve completely, that insists quietly on survival, not as maintenance, but as threshold. Threshold to what you do not yet know. And that acknowledgement, quiet as it is a form of hope. Not bright hope, not optimistic hope, but the ancient restrained hope that says something else is possible. Something else is possible. Not guaranteed, not easy, not immediate, but possible. And possibility, when recognized, becomes a thread you can follow, not to certainty, not to answers, but to the next threshold, and then the next. This is how transformation happens, not in a single moment of revelation, but in the accumulation of small recognitions. You are recognizing something now, even if you cannot name it. That recognition is the beginning, quiet, invisible to anyone but you, but real. I see it. I have been watching for it. Across your exhaustion, across your patterns, across the shape that no longer fits. It is there, beneath everything, waiting. Not waiting for you to be ready, just waiting, patient, ancient. And when you are ready, not to have answers, not to be certain, but simply to take the next small step, it will still be there, waiting for you to notice